What's going on, YouTube? We're back with more reactions. Today, we're going to react to the 25 things you didn't know about Pokemon from Watch Mojo. So I'm actually very curious as to what 25 things I did not know. So we're going to be learning a lot about Pokemon that I didn't know. Yeah, and we'll talk about things that I didn't know. Evi! I love Eevee, dude.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're taking a look at 25 things you may not have known about Pokemon. Keep in mind though, we're focusing on the video game side of the franchise, not the anime, not the trading card game, not even the toys.
Damn, that old Pidgey PNG is crazy.
Finally taken down. Congratulations! The champion has been decided!
Hey, yo.
The spirit of bug catching.
Spirit of bug catching. God, that old school sound that you hear.
To some, Pokemon may seem like an idea that was born from a marketing team. It could be the case for some products built on collecting all the things, but Pokemon's inception is more wholesome than that. Series creator Satoshi Tajiri came up with the idea after he first saw the Game Boy, wondering how two Game Boys would be able to communicate through various means. He then thought about using a cable as a means for bugs to travel between the two. Nintendo wasn't entirely sure if the idea was going to pan out, but decided to support the project with Miyamoto taking Tajiri under his wing.
Okay.
The mythical Gorochu.
Mythical Gorochu? What is that?
Every Pokemon fan knows Pikachu's different evolutions. At first, it was just Pikachu turning into Raichu, and then Pichu was introduced in the second generation as the pre-evolution for Pikachu. However, there was supposed to be another evolution beyond Raichu. In an interview with Japanese news outlets Yomiuri, designer Ken Sugimori revealed that Raichu was supposed to evolve into a pocket monster named Gorochu. According to Sugimori, there were some issues in game balance that led to Gorochu getting cut from Red and Blue.
I didn't know that. Damn, those old school Game Boy graphics, bro. Who's the first Pokemon? I actually don't know this at all.
Who would you think was the first Pokemon to ever be created?
Probably say Nidoran.
Pikachu, given he is the official mascot of the franchise.
So I would say Pikachu. The only reason people would say Pikachu is like how they said is the first. They're the first Pokemon. That's the Pokemon that everything gravitated around, right? Pikachu and Eevee were like the two, because that was the two that you would see battling a lot. But I think that honestly, it's probably Nidoran, I would assume, or probably Caterpie, maybe even Weedle. One of those three. So I'm very curious as to see who this is, who the first Pokemon actually was.
Others may even believe it was Eevee, given its simplistic design and different ways to evolve. On the contrary, the very first Pokemon ever designed was Rhydon, the evolved form of Rhyhorn. Lapras was created soon after, but as to when Rhyhorn came about to be Rhydon's pre-evolution, we may never know. Mew,
that's pretty cool.
Joke Pokemon. It's almost hard to believe that Mew was never planned to be a part of Pokemon, let alone become a legendary one.
That's funny.
Mew didn't make it into Pokemon Red and Blue until the very end of development, just before cartridges were about to be made. Game Freak had filled up as much storage as possible in their final build, enough to where Mew wouldn't have had enough room to be properly programmed into the game. It wasn't until all debugging was finished when they suddenly had just enough space to throw Mew in. And they did it without Nintendo even knowing about its existence. Once Nintendo found out, they leaned into its rarity and threw together a promotional event where only a few players got to obtain Mew. The rarest Pokemon?
That's actually crazy. Oh yeah, who is the rarest Pokemon?
Even after a limited promotion like that, Mew
Gold and
is not the
Silver
rarest
too?
Pokemon to ever exist, nor was it the hardest to obtain.
Okay.
No, that honor, or dishonor, depending on who you ask, belongs to Celebi. To market Pokemon
Celebi.
Gold and Silver, Nintendo held a special promotional event where players could obtain Celebi, similar to how Mew was handled. But there
Okay.
was one catch. You had to be one of 100,000 names chosen from a lottery. Because of this,
Oh.
Celebi became the rarest Pokemon to ever be put in the games. Until people started getting their hands on action replays and all that other external hardware to manipulate their games. Musical
Okay.
evolution.
Musical evolution? Are they talking about like you had to play like a song to? I'm so curious now. First off, the Celebi thing, that's actually interesting. I did not know that they did that back in the day at all. I'm actually learning things. And musical evolution sounds honestly something like Pokemon has not done, unless I'm crazy. It would make sense, but we'll find out.
One of the most notable improvements seen in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire was the shift in music. Before the Game Boy
true.
Advance, many Game Boy games featured music that you'd expect on an NES, composed of the basic chiptune sounds.
Yeah.
But thanks to the GBA's advancements, handheld games took a massive leap forward in boasting music, featuring more prominent instruments. This allowed
man, I
Junichi
love
Masuda
Ruby and
to
Sapphire.
incorporate more brass and piano notes for Ruby and Sapphire's music, which in turn set the foundation for what Pokemon music should sound like. What's in a name?
What's in a name? Is it going to talk about Missing No?
During its development, Pokemon went through several name changes, more than most video games typically go through. For
Okay.
quite some time, the team was focused on calling it Capsule Monsters. Other titles thrown around were names like Kapumon or Kapumon with a K, but the idea of calling the creatures Capsule Monsters kept leading them to trademark issues. One such issue stemmed from the Capsule Monster creatures seen in the Ultraman TV show. Though, oddly enough, Yu-Gi-Oh! Featured a game called Capsule Monsters during its early years as a manga. Regardless, the name was soon settled on Pocket Monsters. Expressive programming.
And I'm glad it's called Pokemon instead of Capsulemon. That would have been kind of weird.
Give Pokemon Scarlet and Violet a
Imagine the world we would have lived in.
Mess on the original Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah,
Despite what
Scarlet and
some may
Violet
want
was
to believe,
dog shit on
there
the
is
original
some
Switch.
Impressive work on display regardless of which Switch console you play on, specifically in the audio. The team at Game Freak actually went and developed an entire program to assist in creating new Pokemon. This program, called PokeSynth, was made to help them create new cries for the different monsters they were putting into the game. And indeed, they do sound more like real animals than the original 151 have over the last few decades.
That's pretty cool. I will say this. This is something about Pokemon ZA that I like, but I dislike as well. Something that Scarlet and Violet did really, really well, but ZA kind of dropped the ball on. ZA is just a mixed bag. If you've ever played it, it's a pretty mixed bag of Pokemon. But in my personal opinion, I also think that ZA drops the balls in battling. I understand they wanted to try like a fresh new take. I completely get it. I hope they don't stick with that, because I feel like everybody leaning away from turn-based makes turn-based more sought after, and I hope that they go back to turn-based, because turn-based was just better. For you just that don't know, for anyone that doesn't know, ZA has a system now where it's not turn-based combat. It's like a hybrid of it. It's cooldown based combat, so you would summon out a Pokemon, there's no PP. You would just fire off a move, then walk a couple of steps, and fire off a move, then walk a couple of steps. Like, it was supposed to give a dynamic feel to it. But in all truthfulness, it doesn't. It doesn't give any kind of dynamic feel to it at all. It kind of sucks, in my opinion. It doesn't feel dynamic and fun. It just feels like I'm just going to go up and shoot a move at people. I'm okay with some of it, not all of it, some of it, but I feel like it could have been a lot better. So I'm hoping that in Winds and Waves, whenever that comes out, I think it's next year, we get like actual full-on like turn-based combat again.
The birth of bartering.
Where's the bartering? Like trading?
Earlier, we mentioned how Tajiri thought about how players could trade bugs between two different Game Boy consoles, but that isn't where the idea of trading creatures came from. The idea of trading items between players stemmed from an experience Tajiri had while playing Dragon Quest II alongside Sugimori. Whereas Sugimori had been able to obtain two powerful weapons in the game, Tajiri was
Kakuna looks so weird
enemy to drop the
back
weapon,
then versus
and it made him
now.
wish Sugimori could just hand him his extra. That experience is what prompted Tajiri to figure out how to get trading to work. It wasn't possible on Famicom, but on Game Boy, it worked beautifully, so long as you had a cable. The Orb of
Yeah, you just need a link cable.
The Pokeball is almost a stunning work of art in itself.
It
We're not
is
just
very
talking about
pretty.
the different designs the ball has seen throughout the years either. No, that basic red and white sphere has become a major gaming icon for its simplicity and significant utility. But its
Sometimes simple
inspiration
is
comes
better.
from an unlikely source. It wasn't inspired by a pair of earrings or some precious jewel.
Yeah, what was
not
it
even
inspired
some random
by?
bug Tajiri nabbed when he was a kid. No, it was inspired by Andy Warhol's painting of the Campbell's soup can. The Space World 97 demo.
The Campbell's soup can?
If you know anything about game development, you would know that the games rarely ever come out looking exactly as they did while they were in the oven. Pokemon Gold and Silver is a prime example of that, and all you need to see that is to look at the demo made for Space World 97. Space World used to be Nintendo's own trade show, meant to demonstrate their own products. The build they used to exhibit Pokemon Gold and Silver
is that supposed to be
contained
Cyndaquil?
a lot of Pokemon that were not seen in the final build. This was likely done to keep the new designs a secret until launch, especially when you consider how basic most of them seem.
Yeah, that just looks like Fire Pikachu. I mean, that's still
How
cool.
new generations form.
Oh, we're gonna learn how new gens get formed?
Over the years, we've
I like
seen
that.
many new Pokemon across every new mainline game. Some have become fan favorites, while others are scrutinized for being just too weird. This may be hard to believe, but there is logic behind every design. Game Freak bases Pokemon on a lot of the team's own experiences, whether it be from company trips to zoos, or even their own individual hobbies and interests. Remember,
That makes sense.
Pokemon itself was conceived because of Tajiri's own hobby, bug catching. So is it really that blasphemous to see sentient ice cream or a living keychain?
Not really.
Accessible battling.
That makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you base any generation off of the experience that you had? Especially if, like, since it's become such a global phenomenon, if you are traveling to a location, like, I'm assuming they go to locations and get information so they can base it off of that next game. Like, each region is based off of a specific region or specific area. Sword and Shield is like Galar region, which I'm pretty sure is Britain, like Europe, Britain area. And then Scarlet and Violet, I think, is Spain. I could be completely wrong on that. And or if it's not Spain, I don't remember exactly where Scarlet and Violet is. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But the next one is supposed to be based off of the Philippines. So it would make sense if people like were like, oh, hey, I went here and this is what I saw. These are the animals that I saw. These are the things that I experienced. Let's make something out of it. I think this would look really good. I think that would look really good. You know, I think that's cool. So accessible battling. Pokemon Black. I have never played Pokemon Black
Pokemon
before.
Black and White, each game had a very standard UI during battles. Each game had simple
Very
text
curious
boxes
as to
and a
how it
colored
works.
outline to help select
It looks
actions.
good.
For much younger players who were still learning how to read, this was probably just a little bit much. To assist those developing their minds, Game Freak approached UI a little bit differently with Black and White. This was the first time in the series where actions in combat would be color-coded to help younger players understand what each button executed. So next time you play, try studying the menu and see if the colors make sense for which action they perform.
Okay.
The party
That's
that
cool.
never was.
Throw a party, admission will be free.
What the hell?
When they walk right in my trap.
Much like other video games, Pokemon has seen several projects get canned throughout its lifespan, though very few are ever known to the public. One such title that folks did get a glimpse of was something called Meowth's Party. This was a game seen during Space World 2000 and was meant to show folks the graphical fidelity of the GameCube, but the small bit we saw of it never evolved beyond the demo. It was instead reused as an end credit sequence for the Pokemon anime before eventually making its way into Pokemon Channel within the Pichu Brothers in Party Panic sequence.
Oh?
Super Cat Scratch
He
Brothers.
got you?
Speaking of Meowth,
Super
the
Cat
blinged-out
Scratch
cat
Brothers.
Pokemon has appeared in every Super Smash Bros. Game since 1999. Given his significance in the anime, one would think he would have been included in Smash Bros. As a playable character at some
It would have
point,
been nice.
right? Well, he came close, or so some believe. Rumor has it that Meowth was supposed to be included in the original Smash Bros. Before he was cut due to time constraints. However, Smash Bros. Creator Masahiro Sakurai has never confirmed or denied this rumor. He has spoken about other Nintendo characters, but never Meowth. So how this rumor cropped up, we may never know. Ultimate Lifeform Brothers.
Ultimate Lifeform Brothers. What do you mean?
While we're on the subject of Smash, there is another pocket monster that is popular between Smash and Pokemon fans.
Mewtwo.
Many of us remember the day we finally unlocked Mewtwo in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but what some may not know is that he was planned to be included in the very first game. And this was no rumor either. Thanks to various pieces of info gathered and translated by Source Gaming, it's been confirmed that Mewtwo was considered for the roster only to be cut for unknown reasons. Could
That's
be time
upsetting.
constraints, could be technical limitations, who knows?
Imagine the world that we would have lived in if he would have
we have yet to get an answer for that.
been put in.
Not a totally useless channel.
Oh?
We briefly mentioned Pokemon Channel a couple entries
Bro,
ago.
I'm sorry. Wobbuffet is so fucking stupid. I love him. I love him so much.
One of the most notorious spin-offs in the entire franchise. This game was widely hated for being a glorified $50 collection of episodes from the show.
Oh,
Despite
that's
what some will
frustrating.
say, Pokemon Channel did have a purpose. Somewhat. The game was developed as a means to promote the e-reader, a peripheral that had players scan cards on their Game Boy Advance.
I remember
for
the
additional
e-reader.
games or even in-game items. In the case of Pokemon Channel, the game included 3 e-reader cards that you could use for the Smeargle's art study minigame. Assuming you had already bought the e-reader, of course, on top of the cable that connects the GBA to the GameCube, which, you know, most people didn't have either. Shaping the Coliseum.
That sucks. Oh, Pokemon Coliseum? These games are stuff that I've never played.
One of the most ambitious games ever seen in the franchise. There was a captivating world to explore and an exhilarating story to experience while battling in a way similar to Pokemon Stadium. But if some
I'll have
elements of the
to
game felt
check this
familiar
game out
to
at
you,
some point.
such as the design of the world, they probably should. During development, Genius Sonority took inspiration from 2 specific RPGs, those being Persona 2 and Final Fantasy VII. Pokemon Coliseum was the very first game the studio ever developed, and from there, Genius Sonority would work on Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, as well as Pokemon Troze, Pokemon Battle Revolution, and Pokemon Cafe Remix.
I do know Gale of Darkness is out right now on GameCube. The GameCube emulator. That's Fire Red.
Trading Pokemon with friends
Leaf
can be
Green.
tricky if you've all
Okay,
been
it's
playing
same thing.
different generations. The system was never meant to be universal, and it was
Mm-hmm.
difficult to make it that way when consoles were constantly being made with different hardware
Makes sense,
specs
makes
and
sense.
so on. But there was a glimmer where you could trade between two completely different generations. During the GBA days, Ruby and Sapphire players could trade Pokemon with Fire Red and Leaf Green players.
Yep.
The reason this was even possible in the first place was because Fire Red and Leaf Green were made on a slightly modified version of Ruby and Sapphire's engine. Now, if only more of us were carrying
Really?
link cables at the time. What's in a name 2? The naming.
Oh, were they gonna change the name of Pokemon to something else?
Figuring out the name for Pokemon as a whole wouldn't be the last time Tajiri and Game Freak would run into trouble with
Asshat.
names. Prior to the 3DS's inception, Game Freak would often have different names for Pokemon according to different languages. For example, Jigglypuff is called Purin in Japan for its squishy and soft appearance, Purin being the word for custard in Japanese. But for Pokemon X and Y,
Okay.
Game Freak wanted every creature's name to be the same across every region and every language. This became a colossal task, more than expected, as it meant every name had to comply with various copyright laws while still fitting
That
their designs and themes.
sucks. X and Y was so good though. I love X and Y.
Translation error.
Translation error.
Even after all the litigiousness and wrestling around with naming conventions,
Okay.
Pokemon Red and Blue still holds the title of being the most tumultuous to develop in the franchise's history. At
That
least
doesn't
judging from
surprise
all the
me.
information we know about the franchise currently. The original pair of games went through a massive bump in the road when getting them prepared for international release. The team found it impossible to simply translate all of the text and call it a day. The source code simply did not support that. What ended up happening was that Game Freak had to reprogram the entire game from scratch while also translating the text to English. This tacked on more development time than what was originally anticipated. The fairy type
That
tale
sucks.
of Pokemon Snap.
Very type
Welcome
2.
back.
What?
Pokemon Snap really feels like it was a simple flash in the pan for Nintendo and HAL
I
Laboratory.
mean, Pokemon Snap
Really,
was
who would have thought
pretty
people
cool.
wanted a photography game set in the world of Pokemon? But this N64 gem
Like,
has a
actually
strange
really cool.
origin. Initially, this wasn't even supposed to be a Pokemon game. Instead, it was going to be based on the classic fairy tale Jack and the Beanstalk. Two reasons for why this pivot was made. One, the project was not testing well behind the scenes. And two, Pokemon
makes sense.
Red and Blue was seeing promising success already. No footage or screenshots can be found of the Jack and the Beanstalk version, as the project was announced as Pokemon Snap at Space World 97. The hidden prequel of Pokemon Stadium.
It's fast asleep.
There's a prequel?
What's next? Goodness.
Perhaps the biggest Pokemon game on N64 was Pokemon Stadium.
Yep.
Between the gym battles, the multiplayer battles, and the mini games, there was
Stadium
a ton
was
to
some
love about this
good
classic,
shit.
and it still resonates with many players today. But
Stadium
the
was
version
really
we grew
good.
up with here in North America, well, that was the second game technically. Japanese audiences got the first game, Pocket Monsters Stadium, and according to critics over there wasn't much reason to buy it. Sure, it was a technical marvel at the time, but many took umbrage with the lack of game modes. In this version, you could only take part in tournaments or take pictures of your Pokemon and view them in the Pokedex. Basically, the Pokemon Stadium we got here in North America became their sequel.
What's next?
Oh,
Oh, the attack missed.
that's interesting.
Will this Pokemon swap change the flow of battle?
Let's go Psyduck?
What? I did not. Okay, I'll say this. I was not a huge fan of Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. I kind of felt like, and this is kind of the similar vein of how I feel about ZA too. It felt like it just kind of took away from what Pokemon games are supposed to be in favor of dumbing it down. And I completely understand people liking it, but it just didn't feel like it should. And I know people are going to be like, well, we need to have a modern twist on it. And it's like, but do we though? Because like it's Pokemon. Why not just have it be what it is, you know, and not change every little aspect of it, just improve on those aspects. I know you want to go in a new direction and step into something newer, but don't remove the stuff completely. Just put it like as a toggle or something. Like, for example, the battling. You could have a system where it's here's the new school battling, here's the old school battling. You don't have to be like, well, we're going to just take away but one or the other and you're just stuck with this, because then that just ruins things for people. Oh, that was cute.
Poor Psyduck has never gotten a chance in the spotlight. Most of the time, he's just filling the role of the clumsy goofball in both the anime and the games.
This does look really cute, though.
He could have had his time in the sun. During its development, the Pokemon Let's Go games were going to feature a very different pairing of mascots, Pikachu and Psyduck. Unfortunately, 2 issues arose from Psyduck's inclusion. For starters, slapping him on the game's cover would have clashed with Pikachu's colors and make it very easy for potential buyers to mistake one game for another. Looking at you, unknowing parents who buy random games for your kids. Secondly, Eevee was already popular with the masses, and so it didn't take long for Psyduck to get shoved back into the shadows.
That is very true. Eevee is extremely popular.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and
maybe
ring the bell to
I
get
will
notified
watch
about our
Mojo
latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Maybe I will.
Born to fail, lived to succeed.
They expected it to fail. Like they were like, it's not going to be that popular.
Pokemon continues to be a global phenomenon that only seems to keep getting bigger.
I bet that's what it is.
With all of the merchandise, the parks, the shops, spin-offs, movies, and shows, one would think that Nintendo and Game Freak knew this
literally
was going
took
to pop
over the
off
world
from the very beginning.
But they didn't.
Sadly, it was quite the opposite. Back in 1996, Nintendo actually anticipated the game to not perform super well in sales. Development was rather extensive compared to other Game Boy games at the time, and the concept of catching monsters in an RPG was too abstract to predict how audiences would react to it. Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue sold more than 10 million copies in Japan.
Imagine.
It would become the best-selling video game ever released in the country until November 2022, when it was surpassed by Animal Crossing New Horizons. Which of these Pokemon facts?
Imagine, genuinely imagine, a world where Pokemon did not exist, or it didn't, like, you're making that, them making the game and being like, this game is destined to fail, we're not going to really worry about it, and only to see that it like skyrocketed to fame, right? It's like nowadays when I watch when I post a video or create something, I'm like, people aren't going to really want to watch this crap. It might be junk and people might not want to do it. But then you see the number like skyrocket on it and people are like, holy shit, this was really good. And you're just like, wow, okay, wait a minute. We have something here, something special, something awesome. And it's just, I don't know, it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling being able to watch something like that actually pick up. And the fact that we right now as a whole like get to live in an era where Pokemon became the absolute cultural phenomenon. Almost every single person on this planet knows what a Pokemon is, and knows something about Pokemon, but maybe not everything. And it just being so massive, not only in my life in the 2000s era, the 1990 2000 era, but in many people's lives even now. It's really surprising to watch such a beautiful game become what it is. And while it may have had a lot of faults over the years, and it may have had a lot of issues, and it definitely needs some tweaking, it's still so cool to see so many people discover like their very first favorite Pokemon, or like seeing how it's developed. Like Winds and Waves looks so good. It's a year away. They're actually taking time to cook it and everything, and it looks phenomenal compared to any of the other ones. Like graphic wise, everything just looks great. I'm hoping it plays well, but I'm very, very excited, and I love Pokemon, and I can't wait to see uh like what more spawns off of Pokemon, even though I also think that we're really due for a game that allows us to go to every region. I know that's a big ask, but we're due for a game that lets you go back to a region like what you could do in Johto. We haven't had one in a very long time, I feel like. I don't remember any other outside of Johto. I could be way wrong, but it would be really cool to like be able to go back to like Kanto and see what Kanto looks like now. Um, Even in Pokopia, like spoilers if you haven't played or finished Pokopia, by now you probably have. But Pokopia, like the whole thing is post-apocalyptic Kanto, and like a big set of natural disasters happen, and the humans disappeared up into space. Some of them did, and they put the Pokemon in a PC. And then once the humans couldn't come back down and fix the PC anymore, they released the Pokemon back out into the world, and the Pokemon rebuilt so then the humans could come back to Earth. It's just so cool to see that. I was like, well, I want to know what happens between that. Like, how does Kanto look now? Like, what is different? Who's the gym leaders? Is Misty an old woman now? Like, hit me in the feels, you know what I mean? Like, what happened to Mount Moon? Did it erupt? Has it erupted since then? What about Cinnabar? Is Cinnabar erupted and everybody evacuated it? Is the SS Anne still going? You know, like, I know Johto like answered some questions, but it would be cool to go back in these newer games and just explore the areas like that. But yeah, anyway, that was 25 things you didn't know about Pokemon. I learned a lot about Pokemon today, and I hope you guys did too. So if you did, drop a like, leave a comment, go watch the video for yourself. Comment down below like your favorite Pokemon and stuff. If you've gotten this far, let me know what your favorite Pokemon is, and I will catch you in the next one.